Archer's out to have a first flight. Is there really any doubt he'll get it right? Stuff is what it will take to break Warp 2. So do it, and don't make us spew. I'm Josh.
I'm Justin.
And this is From There to Here. All right, this is Season 2, Episode 24. It's called First Flight, and according to the IMDb, this is what it's about. After his close friend and colleague A.G. Robinson is killed in a mountain climbing accident, Captain Archer tells T'Pol about the Warp 2 test flight almost 10 years earlier. And on the IMDb, what do you think this is rated?
I'm going to say 8.0.
Ooh.
Too high? Well, I guess historically for Enterprise.
I'm going to say 7.9. I don't think this
right.
broke 8. Let's see what we got here. 7.5.
Really?
Wow, that's low. What is wrong with the internet?
I'm telling you, I think they're just knocking it because it's Enterprise at this point. I don't think they're really giving it a fair shake.
No, they're not. So what do you have for trivia?
First Flight was inspired by the 1983 film The Right Stuff.
What, really?
You're kidding. The story of the test pilots at Edwards Air Force Base and the first NASA astronauts.
Could they say it was also inspired by the Quantum Leap pilot episode as well?
Maybe. Reference is also made to the Apollo 11 lunar landing when Archer mentions that no one remembers astronaut Buzz Aldrin's first words when he stepped onto the moon. And in fact, Aldrin's actual first words were beautiful view. But no one knows that because he was number 2.
That's right.
The rest was just technical stuff. It was directed by LeVar Burton, by the way.
Mr. LaForge.
Mr. LaForge himself.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, well, that's it. Okay.
Yeah. Not much else. Shooting schedule stuff.
Well, I'm really disappointed in the internet again for... This is a good episode.
It is a good episode.
I thought it was better than Regeneration. I mean, we gave Generation its just desserts, but this is better than that.
It is.
So
this is this is what I talked about when we did Regenerations. This is the kind of episode that Enterprise should have been doing. And
I had that same thought the whole time. This is the kind of stuff we wanted to see. How did the whole thing get started?
Yeah, good Lord. This should have been a season 1 episode for crying out loud.
The first season could have been them preparing to launch Enterprise.
I think I said this during one of our earlier episode podcasts, but I could swear I read that somewhere, whether it was Berman, Braga, whatever, one of them, I feel like, had the idea that the first season of Enterprise would be before they even leave Earth. They're getting ready to go. But then the studio was like, are you insane?
Yeah.
Get them into space. I totally get the studio's idea on that, but how cool would that have been?
They've been wanting to do that for years. Remember, they had the idea of Starfleet Academy before Star Trek 6 came out?
Yeah.
But that was too out of the ordinary. That's rolling the dice.
Right.
It was too much of
then
that.
JJ did it.
Well, he put them out in space, though.
Yeah, he did. But I mean, it started with them.
And that movie's garbage anyway.
Well, yes.
We're talking about real Star Trek.
Yeah.
Don't bring up that garbage here.
I know. Well, I believe one of the ideas, it was Harv Bennett's idea to do Starfleet Academy. And I think it was the studio that said, no one is going to care about these characters if they're not played by Shatner, Nimoy, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that was
kind
of their reasoning.
You know, I get it. I mean, if you think about it, we had a similar attitude when TNG started, which was no one's going to care about this show. It's not Kirk and Spock, but history. So someone had to take a chance and they finally did. Of course, we all know that could totally be done if you get the right actors in the role. But anyway, moving on.
I really thought this was a superb Enterprise episode.
Yeah.
And done pitch perfectly. I thought the flashback structure worked, although I think it could have worked just fine as if it was told in regular time. If this was an episode in season 1 of Enterprise, an alternate season 1 of Enterprise, where it all took place on Earth and they were still getting ready to launch.
Well, it's basically Carbon Creek. Where
explain.
Carbon Creek is told with the framing device of T'Pol telling them a story at dinner.
Right.
So this is to
In the
Paul and
reverse.
Archer in the
Okay.
shuttle,
Right.
and him flashing back and telling a story.
He's telling her a tall tale, and she's
Well, yeah, it's not that she doesn't believe him. She just says, "Well, this isn't in the record books," and he's like, "Well, why would it be? This is why."
Mhm.
Very similar thing, and look how good Carbon Creek turned out. But I agree with you completely. Great episode.
How did you feel about Scott Bakula in this? His performance. Often you said he's been restrained.
I hate to say it, I still feel it a little bit
Okay.
in this. Less, I mean, I really didn't feel that in Regenerations, but I felt it here. I don't know why that is, man. I don't know why. I wish I could put my finger on it. I wish there was an explanation, but there isn't. I don't know why. I just know that he is capable of something different. And I feel like he is being shackled, whether it's by the producers or by his own interpretation of who Archer is. I don't know. But I feel it a little bit in this. But it's able to work better in this because of what AG says to him at the like midpoint in the episode when he said, you're too by the book. You got to be this, you got to be that, so he's playing stiff, and so at least it works in context, but I still feel it,
Did you feel he was restrained during their bar fight?
No, that was good.
Okay.
I wish the music was punchier though.
Throughout the whole episode or just the bar fight?
The whole episode, it has that generic Enterprise episode, which is a shame because when they go to warp, you should hear this triumphant big music.
You're right.
Heck, man, even play a little bit of the Star Trek theme.
You're right. Yeah, that would have been a nice addition.
Yeah. Dun 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 dun.
As good as the episode was, it was cliched in that it's ripping off the right stuff basically, which has been done before. But
now it's been a while since I've seen the right stuff. But at any point in there, do any of those pilots steal a plane and take off and do?
No,
okay,
not
right.
the right stuff.
Okay, because to me, I was like, I feel like I'm watching Firefox. They're stealing, or Daryl. They're stealing the ship.
No, they didn't. But they were all hot shots and whatnot.
But that's going to be the case though when you have test pilots going for the big thing. Why not? That's fine. I think that's any movie or TV show when there's test pilots of a sort.
Of course.
You're always going to have that.
But you cannot, ever since the right stuff was made, it's always compared to the right stuff.
Well, as it should be.
Because that movie is a masterpiece. And so is the book.
Yes, it is.
But I haven't read the book.
I've seen the movie.
And the movie's great.
Yeah, great cast.
Excellent cast. But, as soon as we saw that bar, I was like, okay, when's the bar fight going to happen?
Of course, there has to be a bar fight.
I was like, there's going to be a bar
you've
fight.
Got egos and alcohol.
Alcohol.
That equals bar fight.
And I was like, okay. The second you walk into the bar the second time, you're like, oh, okay, it's not going to take too long now.
No, first time was set up. This one's for real. Yeah.
So do you want to move on to our listener discussion questions?
Yes.
Early
let's
on.
do it.
Let's jump into it. Okay,
Yes.
so Sebastian from Germany, has some questions on First Flight, 2 of them. So for us, he has prepared. Well, what do we learn from this episode about solving problems? A, beat up your rival. B, lie to your critics. Well, C, and if something doesn't work, just try again. Bluntly. So when you think about it, what's it actually telling? Could it be that this episode is pretty hollow? Hollow. I don't.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one, Sebastian.
Hollow. Why would that?
No, I don't think so.
I think you
Can you go through his 3 things again?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. A, beat up your rival.
That's not what he was doing. Yes, the rivals.
They were getting out their aggression.
Yeah.
They weren't.
He wasn't beating him up to get the job.
Well, as T'Pol pointed out, it was an adversarial relationship that blossomed into a friendship.
Yeah, but even before they had their fight, I mean, Archer was still running the command room, and he was genuinely concerned for him when he didn't respond, and all of that. So it was friendly rivalry that became a little real when it looked like everything they had put their money on had been tanked. So a fight, I think, was not too far of a stretch to happen.
Men can show their feelings through aggression.
Yeah,
sometimes.
They could have ended that fight completely bitter, but they both recognized that.
Well, it was boiling over. They needed to.
They needed a release.
Yeah. So
what was B?
B was lie to your critics.
They didn't lie to the Vulcans. Vulcans being the critics in this case. They believed genuinely that this engine could work. And they were further pushed to prove it by Tucker, Lieutenant Tucker, saying, no, I'm an engineer. I'm telling you, this engine works. It's just this little thing is wrong. We just got to fix it. So
were they the primary critics in that case? Or was that Admiral Forrest?
No, I don't think it was Admiral Forrest. I think Admiral Forrest
did he represent criticism at large, outside criticism beyond the Vulcans?
Because
the Vulcans were pressuring them to go slower.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it was if the Vulcans weren't there, I think Archer and AG would have had no problem convincing them to, let's use this other ship. We've got it. Let's make our tweaks, do some tests, and then we'll go. But I think it's the Vulcans that are the real critics here, because Forrest wants them to succeed. The Vulcans kind of don't,
Well, I don't get the impression that they wanted them not to succeed, but
I'm just saying they're the ones that are being critical, not Forrest.
Well, I didn't mean Forrest, but he is there as a representation of the criticism in general.
Yes, but that criticism is led by the Vulcans.
I think it's energized by the Vulcans, not led by it.
Highly influenced by.
So, yeah, lying, I don't think they were lying.
No, I don't think so. They genuinely believed it.
No, they really, yeah.
Archer believes in it, believes in the engine. Tucker believes in the engine.
Yeah, they weren't, it wasn't like...
AG does kind of go, wow, hey, man, this engine's crap.
It wasn't like a Silicon Valley story where they're faking their technology.
Yeah, no.
They knew worked, and they can prove it.
Yes.
And they did.
What was C?
And if something doesn't work, just try again.
Bluntly? Is that what he said?
Bluntly, yeah.
As you should.
If something doesn't work, just try again.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. You don't give up after the first one.
Yeah.
Unless they realize, wow, okay, that engine doesn't work, square one. But that's not what they think.
Well, that was the whole philosophy behind AG. It's like, you didn't come out. We can't make it out in deep space playing it safe. We're going to have to take risks.
Yeah.
People could die. Ships could blow up. That was the whole idea behind the episode.
The part of the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So no, I respectfully disagree.
What about what Q said in Q Who? If you can't take a little bloody nose, why don't you go back to your room and crawl under your bed?
And he's absolutely right.
Exactly.
You got to be able to take a few hits.
It's scary out here. There's wonders to something frees your soul.
And satiate the soul. Something like that.
Yeah. So Hollow, absolutely not.
I don't think so. That's interesting that he would have that take on it.
I'd like to hear an explanation on why he thinks it's hollow.
So Sebastian, yes, when you write again, please let us know, aside from the things that you mentioned, like, can you elaborate on that or elaborate on those three things? Why do you feel that makes this hollow? Or is your answer to that really in your question, which is you feel those things are the case, that they lied, that they didn't believe in it, that whatever. I'm curious.
So question number 2, I've read the initial plans for the whole series were different.
This might be it.
Maybe. Enterprise shouldn't have left space dock until the end of season 1. The first season should have been all about how humans fight for their first deep space mission.
Then you could have episodes of test flights.
Oh, yeah.
Finding your crew.
We could get to know them before they even go out into space.
Yeah.
When I first read that, I thought this would have been so different and so cool.
Yeah.
But after having seen First Flight, I'm not so sure. Ooh, okay, interesting. Do you think stories like this would have made a better first season? Well, we kind of spoiled that already. Yes, we do.
Again,
so clearly Sebastian is not a fan of this episode.
No, and Sebastian, I'm very curious here. Tell me if I'm way off the mark here. I'm wondering if your impressions on this episode are due to cultural upbringing. By that, I mean American culture is surrounded by and glorifies examples like we talked about with the movie
The Right Stuff.
The Right Stuff. Test pilots risking all to do this, to cross this new, the sound barrier could never be broken. It was broken.
Yes.
Things like that.
Daredevils
going to space. We did that. So we Americans did that. So we have this built into our cultural DNA to where, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, we see an episode like this and we see The Right Stuff and we're like, yeah, America, F yeah. And I wonder if it's a cultural thing from a part of the world that does not historically have that sort of background.
Are you sure?
I'm just saying in space flight, things like that.
I know you're not a historian.
No, I'm not. I'm not claiming to
Okay,
be. I'm just wondering if that could be where his perspective comes from.
It's an interesting theory.
I'm not saying people.
Before you said that, I hadn't considered.
Yeah, I'm not saying that
cultural
people in
differences.
other countries didn't pioneer things and all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it seems to me, at least from my perspective, that American culture is very much wrapped up in that, Americana and all of that. That's not to say that people of other countries don't have patriotism and all of that. I'm just saying, the whole right stuff attitude is like an American attitude, I feel like. So maybe that's why Sebastian sees this differently. Just, again, Sebastian, please enlighten me. I'd be very curious to know that.
Well, to return to his question,
Yeah.
we do think stories like this would have made a better first season. That's what we think.
Yeah.
I don't know if are we in the minority about this? I'd like to know.
I don't know.
I mean, we have one person telling us that he doesn't think so.
Just imagine if you had a whole first season of Enterprise where it ends season 1 with them finally leaving orbit. You could have throughout the season a small subplot of people trying to sabotage it, whether it be Vulcans or other humans, like Contact, where they're afraid to go. It's against God's will, so we got to blow up the thing and all of that. Zealots, whatever, anything. The dramatic possibilities are endless for the kind of stories in 26 episodes that they could have done.
They just didn't want another Deep Space Nine. They didn't
I
want to
know.
roll the dice like that. Like, they don't move. What are you talking about?
It's such a shame. There was I do not know the name of it now, but there was a show that only lasted one season. It's not that old, but I caught it. I want to say it was on HBO or Showtime, something like that. But it was with Sean Penn. And Sean Penn was an astronaut, and he was he ended up being bumped. He was an alternate for a mission that was supposed to go to Mars, I want to say. And something goes wrong. It's all building up, and something goes wrong, and they all die. And because he didn't go, he then goes from sort of mission director to cleaning up the mess. And then it was all going to lead to the second mission where he would be going. It was really cool because it was all on Earth and it was all building towards something.
This was a TV show?
Yes. And I for the gun to my head, I cannot
Sounds
remember what it was
interesting.
called. It was.
Okay.
And I was so bummed it didn't move on because it was interesting. There was all sorts of drama about who's going, who's not going. What is the mission scrubbed? Is it not scrubbed? What is it? It was interesting. It wasn't 26 episodes. It was like a 10 episode run or something, but I found it interesting, but obviously not enough people did. It didn't go. And I get it. A show called Star Trek. It takes producing guts to say, let's set it on Earth for a whole year. I get it, but it would have been cool.
Well, they would have to. Maybe they couldn't even use it as a subtitle. What I mean that is Star Trek is the main title and then have a subtitle referencing the series and not call it Enterprise.
I think that still would have been a perfect name.
Just
Enterprise.
call it, because it's an Enterprise.
Yes. Like if anything.
But just don't say Star Trek. Just call it Enterprise.
Well, that's how this show started. It wasn't called Star Trek.
Oh, that's
Enterprise
right. That's
at
right.
first. And I think that name would have been so perfect.
Maybe they should have called it Free Enterprise.
and you could have even had, the newly commissioned Captain Archer dropping by Starfleet Academy, picking up Hoshi or Travis, some of the newbies, like there's so many Trek references and things that could have been visited it's the show that could have been.
Well, I think, at this point they were thinking like Coca-Cola, right? Like don't mess with the formula.
Yeah.
Like don't make a new Coke.
Yeah.
Just stick with what works.
And I get it. Even though Deep Space Nine is by far my favorite Star Trek series, it broke the mold and it paid the consequence. It was also the lowest rated, right? And
was it? Or was it Enterprise that was the lowest rated?
You know what? I don't know. At the time, anyway, it was definitely the black sheep. It has built up a significant fan base, fortunately, as time went on. But at the time, it was ignored.
It was the black sheep.
It was the black sheep. And I know a lot of people attributed that to its format, which was not the problem.
Since we're on the subject of Deep Space Nine, I remember, I think it was the Star Trek TNG Compendium or one of those books that we used to read a lot over and over again. And it was a great book full of lots of factoids and stuff like that. Things you could find on the internet easily today. But
back then we had to read them in books.
Yeah, right. And I remember the very last page of maybe part 1, they had this little tiny section that they put in there. Just I feel like it was shoehorned in because they were talking about this section was all devoted to Star Trek history and how great it had been, how it had grown so large since the original series and how it could it was only going up. And then this on the next page, turn it over, a little picture it showed Deep Space Nine or something like that, and it said Trouble in Paradise. And I was like, uh-oh. And it said that, well, when we started this, we thought there'd be enough audience members to go around, but doesn't seem like there is anymore because ratings have started to dip. And that was the first time that they had ever mentioned, at least that I had read, that things weren't going to be as good anymore. The audiences were going to start falling off.
Right.
Viewership is going to go down, and it never recovered.
Right. Ever.
It just kept going down, down, down. Even when they make another series and call it Voyager, then another one, call it Enterprise, can't get them back.
Well, I mean, you can't hold on to that forever. The shiny new car that was TNG. Even TNG, as you and I have talked about in the last, say, 2 seasons, started to decline.
There's still quality episodes.
There's still quality episodes.
The magic isn't there.
The magic had started to decline.
It's faded.
Yes.
It's like the last few seasons of the Wonder Years. It's still a good show.
Yes.
Just not as special as the earlier seasons.
Those last couple seasons don't have the iconic magic that the earlier stuff did. And so even TNG, it had pinnacled. And there's only one direction that's going to go. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's the fault of DS9 or Voyager or Enterprise. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And you and I were, at the time TNG came out, we were in the target demographic group. But then we grew up. We kept watching. But a lot of people didn't because they got this job, they went to this school, whatever. Just life takes over. I'm sure many of them still consider themselves Star Trek fans, but they weren't the dedicated viewers that they could be because of where they were at that point in their lives. And, and then of course, as time goes on, like it or not, the draw that is Star Trek is going to diminish because Star Trek was created in a certain time and was a certain thing because of that time. And, you get into what would it be? The late 90s, 2000s, movies are changing, television is changing. And even though Star Trek is wonderful, classic entertainment, it's not the hot new thing that it once was, because it's still that car, that old car. And that old car is great and wonderful. But it's never going to recapture that same draw that it once did. And I just think that's reality. And it's a shame, you know? Well, and unfortunately, it left us in a situation where producers were unwilling to take a chance. Like they did. They took a chance with the Deep Space Nine. And it's a shame the viewership didn't show the interest. Because that's why we got Voyager and Enterprise the way it was. Enterprise would have been what we've been talking about if it had been in a different level.
Well, you get no argument from me on that.
There you go.
So we also have discussion questions from Marie.
Okay.
Marie also sent a review of her own of First Flight, so I'll read that first.
Sure.
I like that we get a deeply resonant episode that provides crucial backstory to Jonathan Archer's character, enriching the overall narrative of Star Trek Enterprise. I agree, Marie. I share that sentiment.
Yeah, definitely.
By delving into Archer's past and his relationship with A.G. Robinson, the episode highlights the personal and professional challenges that shaped Archer into the captain he is. The episode's focus on character development and emotional depth makes it a standout, providing a compelling mix of nostalgia and insight into the early days of Starfleet's warp program. The performances, especially by Scott Bakula and guest star Keith Carradine, are heartfelt and engaging. I thought so. I thought Keith Carradine did a great job. I think Scott Bakula was
a little stiff.
A little bit. I think he was playing as he normally does in this series, but Keith Carradine, I think, did a great job. I think he balanced.
He had a good naturalism to him.
I think they played off of each other believably.
I think they both had the same sort of hairline.
Yes, did you know? I noticed
they
too.
both had like the same hairdo.
Yeah, I know. That was peculiar. Okay, so here are.
I dug that though.
Oh yeah, that they were similar. Like maybe that's part of where
not just that.
Yes,
but that the producers avoided the temptation of making AG kind of like Maverick, you know, when in reality, most test pilots, they don't look like that. They don't act like that. They're very smart guys that are ego driven still, but these are smart people, you know, and they may drink, they may get into a fight here and there, but these are smart guys. Like Maverick is a TV pilot, a movie pilot. You know what I mean? I felt like this was more reality based, which was nice.
Yeah, I don't know what the maybe there's just like this inclination to make pilots like cowboys of like the old West era, like, you know, the John Wayne era. You know,
most of them look more like Goose than they look like Maverick.
Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's that tendency.
Yeah.
They want to do that. I think they probably exaggerate their characteristics, their real life characteristics, to make it more interesting.
I get
more
the
dramatic.
temptation, of course. Sure.
Well, before I get on to her questions, I'd like to say thank you, Marie, for sending in questions in advance to meet our schedule demands. Thank you very much. She has questions for the next two after this, but also I'd like to add Marie as an honorary cast member of the show as well as of the podcast. You absolutely deserve to be there.
She's been putting in the effort
with Sebastian, so
I appreciate
welcome
it.
aboard. Yeah. Okay, so here we go for her first discussion question. How does the experience shared in this episode shape Archer's approach to command and his vision for Starfleet's future? Well, I think it's the bedrock. It's I mean, we went over this before we started reading discussion questions. This is what gives him his philosophy. A.G. Robinson says it to him. He says, you know, you can't play it safe. You got to go out there and
gotta take chance.
And this is later in the first episode. We see how aggressive he is towards the Vulcans, you know?
Right.
So I think it's, as I said, a bedrock, a foundation.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What lessons does he seem to take from his past that are evident in his current leadership style?
I think, unless do you have a thought?
Well, I mean, not immediately. If you wanted to jump in on that,
I think it shows in his current command style in the sense that he he knows the rules, he knows the rule book, but generally speaking, he knows when it's time to step outside of the lines. You know, if you can color inside the lines,
like when to break the rules.
yeah, there is a time to break the rules. And I feel like for the most part, he knows when that is, you know.
I mean, is this part of you think this is part of the reason why he became so, not just, it couldn't have been just this reason why he became so stubborn with the Vulcans. It was before that.
Oh, it was before that.
Yeah. I mean, but this didn't help.
No.
Because he still shows animosity towards them, you know.
Well, yeah, because he has
breaking
that,
the ice, you know, for instance.
Yeah, he has that angst because of his dad and you know, all that stuff. I mean, that's my impression, is that to answer the question, is that it helped him know when to break rules.
When to not play it safe.
To
get what he wants. Yeah. To get what he thinks is good for the overall status quo.
You know, like take the pilot, you know, they lost, what is it? Clang? Is that his name? Clang?
Oh, from the first episode?
Yeah, the pilot.
Yeah, close enough.
They lost him. They could have said, well, it's too much of a risk going out there. Let's just go home. But no, he's like, no, we're on a mission. We're going to finish it. Just like with this. He was going to give up and say, well, they closed us down. And AG said, and that's it. You're done. You believe in this thing. Prove it. You know, get out there. And I think, you know, they do a good job of sort of retconning why he is then a captain that will make these choices, you know, risk, but an acceptable risk, you know.
Risk is their business.
That's right. He's the captain. He could order this.
Well, that's those are all the questions from Marie.
Okay.
Is there anything else from this episode that you wanted to discuss?
If the episode has a weakness, and it's not the episode's fault, it's Enterprise's fault.
Okay.
That just this whole episode visually just reeked of Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah.
It's so flat.
I know.
God, it kills me. Even when they're supposed to be on Earth.
It's washed out.
It's washed out. It's set bound.
It's like they have the contrast set down or something.
I don't know it's very
strange.
but it is so frustrating to see because the production quality is there, but the cinematography is not. And
it's very what's the word? Typical?
Flat is the
flat,
word, really.
Yeah, unimaginative. Flat. Yeah.
It is.
Just set the camera down, reverse shot.
It almost looks like, well, yeah, that the blocking, but it's also, it feels like if you've ever seen, like on YouTube, you'll see videos about the new digital cameras, the red, the this, the that, you know, and they'll show how those cameras capture images natively, which is very flat. And that's on purpose because they know that digital photography is going to be then graded and manipulated. If it shoots a high contrast image, there's nothing you can do. You can't recover the details. So they are very intentionally flat. And when you can see that when you see, you and I recently watched a handful of deleted scenes from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and it had that look. It was very flat. The contrast hadn't been built into it, and that was on purpose. Granted, that was shot on film, but it was the same concept where it was still very flat, and then it had to be processed. It felt like
we're watching a soap opera.
Yeah, it feels like they just missed that one stage in post production, and they forgot to send it over to the grading department and get it tweaked up to look like a high gloss show. Yeah,
there was another. I watched a season 1 episode recently, and I noticed that they hadn't quite mastered their Foley work yet. Like they were it was a bridge shot and they were panning back and Picard was walking down the ramp and you heard their footsteps kind of echo on the cardboard set or
and
something.
You know that's wooden.
Yeah, like it was like, well, that sounds weird. I was like, they fixed that later, I know. So you don't hear that again.
Yeah.
Immediately your mind knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I agree with your sentiment.
But that's not a fault of the episode per se, but frustrating because you're like, yes, we're finally getting different environments, and yet it feels so flat.
What was also in the episode was something that I'm glad they added to it. I don't know if this was something they planned on, but Trip was a part of the backstory. This is where they met.
Right.
And
all we know historically is that they knew each other from before, but you really don't know the hows or the whys.
Right. We don't know.
It was cool to see.
It was. Bring him in. That's great. So we get to see how they met, and they bonded over this Warp 2 ship. And
the little wink, wink. If I ever have my own ship, I'll make sure to bring you on board. I'll hold you to that.
And then Trip explains his name.
Yeah.
Which
I was okay with.
I was okay with it too.
Yeah.
I mean, I turned to you and asked, had he never said this before? And you said no. You just assumed that Trip means triple.
Because he's the third.
Of course.
They do say.
It's easy to deduce, but he never actually explained the story before. So
could have been a klutz. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows? So I did like that was in there as well. So
do you think the episode misses anything by not, even though it would have meant cutting into screen time somehow showing Archer, like, I don't know, at a funeral or something at the very end? Like maybe they went back home to go to AG's funeral. I don't know. I'm just, because we get invested in this character.
That's
and
true.
We just hear that he bites it vertical limit style.
Yes. Anybody who remembers that movie. Yeah, it would have been nice to see him in the present tense, even if it's his gravestone. But it's a funeral. That would have been. I think that would have been a nice touch. All it would take is like a few shots, and then you roll the credits or start the credits over that shot. I think that would have been a sweet way to wrap it up. A bittersweet way.
Even if they didn't send them back to Earth, because that's obviously very much out of their way. Maybe on the bridge, for example, have. What's his name? Admiral Forrest say, they're on the ship and it's Admiral Forrest. Jonathan, I knew you'd want to be a part of this. So please have your crew stand in honor. And then they'd pull back and show that they're at the funeral, and you could have them all, salute or whatever they do.
Yeah.
And that would be a nice little thing, and then it could end with like a zoom in on a, big blown up picture of AG,
we hadn't discussed writer's room ideas other than our suggestion that this should have been more of what the first season was.
Yeah.
And I think an episode like this could have worked really well, maybe near the end of like the first season. Like this was like the season.
A good button.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have been okay if they had, with maybe a punchier score, this could have been the season finale to season 1.
Absolutely.
I think it would have been great.
Yeah. And, they know that they're going to be commissioning a new NX starship soon, and we know that's going to be their ship. So,
yeah.
And I don't see why they couldn't make the whole first season work with that crew down on Earth somewhere.
Of course you could.
And I don't think it could still be interesting, even though they're not voyaging through space.
No, but you could, if you want to throw the Trek stuff out there, they could be doing test flights with things and all of that to give us the space and all that stuff. Man, it would have been interesting. And instead of having Klingon villains, Andorian villains, which cool, yes. Save that for the second season. You could let the Klingons and Andorians visit Earth. No, I'm just saying.
Maybe once or twice.
That would have been so cool if that's not what the first season would have been. If it was more like Contact, building this thing. There could have been people on Earth that said, this is not a good idea. We belong here on Earth. They have that.
Yeah.
That happens in season 4. And you could have like elements of that. You could have a conspiracy of Vulcans trying to derail the thing, is T'Pol one of them? Is she an Enterprise person? All that stuff. Interesting. Go on a mission to go find your pilot, spend a whole episode or 2 discovering Mayweather, do something different. Get outside in real natural lighting. and without a UPN video filter and let me see the sun and colors and all of that.
I don't disagree. But again, not to sound like a broken record, they just weren't willing to take that risk.
They were not. They were not.
They needed they needed to milk the cow.
Yeah.
So they did.
It
was dried up. They just didn't know it was already dried up.
The thing is we'll never know. But Braga, Berman, they've talked a lot about how they felt the movies and even Enterprise all petered out because of Star Trek fatigue, they felt. And there may have been an element to that. But we'll never know what this...
I remember at that time, I was kind of getting tired of it because it was... I'd grown up on it and I was growing up.
That's exactly what I said before.
Right. I was, maturing, and Star Trek hadn't changed enough. It was pretty much just pumping out the same stuff.
Yes.
And I just kind of lost interest.
Exactly. It hadn't changed with the times.
It's not just changing with the times. It's just trying new things.
Well, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be of the times.
No, it doesn't have to be hip and all this. But yes, it didn't change its formula at all. They tried once and they got the black sheep that is Deep Space Nine, but now they look back and go, well, I wish we did do that with Enterprise, because now DS9 is regarded as this gem, and Enterprise might be looked at like that had they taken those chances,
Well, do you want to move on to grading?
Sure.
Okay. I think this is another A. Definitely another A episode.
Yes.
Get no argument from me about that one.
I would agree with you.
Okay, well, that was easy.
It's a good episode. Always has been.
Yeah.
I revisited this one many times.
Yeah, this is one that I've watched more than a couple of times.
And I don't know if you recall this. Mm-hmm. I don't know what episodes when in season 1 and 2, but they name drop Ruby from the 602.
Yes.
So we finally meet her, which was cool.
Was that the name of the girl that character mentioned that was Malcolm's friend?
In Shuttle Pod 1.
No. I was thinking of the one where I think it's Silent Enemy, where they're Hoshi's trying to figure out what Malcolm's favorite food is. And she calls this guy that knew him, and he says, "Oh, we went to this place and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I think he had this." Wait a minute. No. He's like, no, I'm thinking of the girl. He had a crush on that girl. I think he hates sushi or something like that. It must have been somebody else.
Right.
Must have been something else. But he mentioned Ruby in Shuttlepod 1.
Is it? Okay, it is Shuttlepod 1.
I don't know.
1,
did
right?
he?
I feel like it was, but I know at some point the name Ruby is dropped.
Well, that was a nice addition.
And
then,
this was meant to tie that up. Yeah.
Okay.
That was cool.
Well, it was nice. She was very pretty. So
yeah.
I can see why they would remember her.
Of course.
Okay. And that was an interesting little bit they threw in there, a memorable bit where Trip tries to guess what her kids' names would be. And that was her.
She said she'd marry the man that figures it out.
That was a nice little thing they threw in there. And it
doesn't pay off. It doesn't need to.
It was just a character flavoring. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
I do have one writer's room thing.
Okay.
They should
what do you got?
In the flashbacks, they should have, just for fun, had Admiral Forrest have hair.
Okay.
Like Picard did in that one flashback episode.
Yes. Violations.
Where he had hair. And it wasn't like this big mane. It was thinning, but he had hair.
I wonder if it was the toupee they had him wear during the screen tests.
Might have been. I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah. I mean, those aren't cheap.
They probably just dug it up out of mothballs.
Sure.
Here you go, Patrick.
Yeah. He's like, look.
It's the past.
Look
Don't
how
worry
stupid
about it.
I look.
Everyone knew you had hair back then. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, just that.
I would have liked that edition.
That would have been fun.
What if it was like jet black, like he used to color it or something?
No, I think he should have had hair, and then he should have, when he's dressing them down after AG blows up the first one, he should have said, "You guys, you're stressing me out. I'm gonna lose my hair."
Over this stuff. What if he had like jet black hair and like a jet black goatee and mutton chops,
Sure.
like John Lovitz and Mom, Dad Save the World?
Maybe you're going too far.
Yeah, no, I like that. You guys are going to make me lose my hair.
I can't handle this stress. Can you guys just follow rules?
Yeah, you could have said, guys, my hair's starting to fall out. All right.
Just watch in a few years. I'm going to be going all bald.
Did you have any trivia from the episode for me?
No.
I had a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Let's see. During the opening teaser of the episode, T'Pol and Archer are discussing what exotic substance? It's T'Pol, Archer, and Trip are discussing what exotic substance?
Dark matter.
Very good. I knew that was an easy one. AG died.
Mount McKinley.
Didn't even let me finish the question. Those are my questions.
Okay.
So, there were a few good lines. One I already mentioned, the bit about Ruby. There was another one where I think it was, I don't know, did Trip say this? No, it was AG. What are you going to do out there? You can't turn to the Vulcans for help unless you decide to take one with you. Yeah. I thought that was fun. Nice little wink. I like that a lot.
It would. I wonder if it would have gotten a laugh if after that Archer turned and went, "That's a terrible idea."
I would never do that.
That's ridiculous.
Unless, of course, she's really hot.
Yeah. Unless she's got really big boobs.
And we put her in a skin-tight outfit for no reason.
And I can lather her up in the decon room.
Yes. I'll just tell her she needs to go in for some reason. We picked up some kind of bug. So what's coming up next? Did you happen to look that
we're
up?
2 episodes away.
Okay.
Give me a quick second. We're almost done with season 2. In fact, while I'm looking, is there anything we want to do in between season 2 and season 3?
Oh, you mean like a season 2 recap?
Something. Anything.
Well, we did a season 1 recap.
All right.
We might as well do a season 2 recap.
All right.
Oh, I forgot to mention
Bounty.
We do have to award Trip Tucker his award for petulance. We forgot about that.
You know, he was, but not offensively so.
But it was still petulance.
A little bit.
It was a blue ribbon.
I dug that when the security guys come into the hangar bay to first see if the ship is there, and then they see Trip and they go to arrest him, and he goes, "Whoa, wait." And he gets on the comm and he's like, "Did you make it?" Whatever. And they all back off because they want it to succeed too.
Yeah, they don't want to hurt the guy.
I almost wanted to see like them all together going, "Yeah," just kind of like human forever,
giving each other some high fives.
Why not? Because they succeeded. And,
Yeah.
it's like, go team.
Sure.
It's there because they stopped and you see them smiling.
Yeah.
But just like literally America.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah.
I agree. So what did you say was next?
Bounty.
That's
the one where Archer is he's being held prisoner in the back of a ship of a Tellarite. That's I think he's gonna.
It's a little vague.
He's a bounty hunter, and there's a bounty on Archer for I don't know who puts it out.
Bounty law.
And he's trying to convince them. Oh no, we're cool. And he's like, I don't care. I'm just getting my bounty.
Okay, yeah, it's not ringing any bells. Okay, well. Well, if you'd like to write into the show, the email is podcastnx01@gmail.com. You can write in with discussion questions, trivia questions, any kind of general criticisms or comments. We welcome them. You could also leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or rate us. That would also help us out a lot. Well, until next time, bye.
Bye.